it's just an amazing technology that if you understand the math, you can point it anywhere.
Now, for people that don't understand what light therapy even really does in the body, can you give a quick explanation?
Yeah, application of light of very specific parameters, so primarily red and near infrared wavelengths. Those are called non-ionizing wavelengths. So ionizing wavelengths, people have heard of the electromagnetic spectrum and radiation. The word radiation scares people. All light is radiation. Mm-hmm. Where it lands in that spectrum determines how the cells put it to work. And so it's either ionizing, which is causing free radical damage and potentially causing harm, depending on the amount being exposed to and how often, to non-ionizing wavelengths, which are just the opposite. They actually absorbed and put to work in a positive way. So the application of very specific colors, very specific intensities, because strong intensity is inhibitory and downregulates cells. Low intensity actually is stimulatory, and it does one thing exceptionally well. It displaces a little free radical. It's a molecule called mitochondrial nitric oxide. That blocks up the oxygen receptor site in the cell's energy production cycle. So this terminal enzyme in this cycle is called cytochrome C oxidase, and it's where oxygen belongs. Mm-hmm. But when a cell is under stress, whether that's a slow and insidious stress like bad food creating diabetes, or a injury, car accident, this molecule gets produced in excess quantities, and it has a higher affinity for this oxygen receptor site than oxygen itself does. So it blocks it, which means your cells aren't breathing like they are supposed to. I tell people, think about when you walk up a set of stairs fast and you're not in very good shape, you're short of breath. You can still do what you need to do, but you're still not working at optimal function. That's what your cells are doing.
That's the oxidative stress.
Actually, it's not yet. It is the trigger for oxidative stress. So when the body's always checks and balances, so it's always trying to neutralize and balance things out. So we neutralize free radicals with rest and antioxidants. Well, most people don't do either one of those well in the world that we live in. So if the injury is significant enough, like a chemical exposure would be a really good, or a viral exposure, think of COVID over the last couple of years. So if the exposure is significant enough, it triggers a production of a very volatile free radical called reactive oxygen species. And it's, again, a molecule that in very tiny amounts is really good for us because it triggers natural healing processes. Mm-hmm. But in excess amounts, it creates oxidative stress. And oxidative stress, I tell people, if you've seen an apple turn brown, you've seen oxidative stress or a pipe rust. It's oxidation of our cells, which triggers damage and if the teeter-totter balances in a way that we produce more than we can neutralize, it starts to do damage to the cell itself, and it's actually the cause of every disease we know of. Mm-hmm. So it's a very negative cascade in the wrong direction. So why light can be so profound and why I can point it from anywhere from my head to my toes is because light works at that very first step in the process, which is where the oxygen can't attach because that molecule is in the wrong spot. It does one thing really well, and it bounces that molecule out. And what it does is then the local blood vessels will absorb that molecule, and it creates a vasodilation effect just like Cialis and Viagra does. Mm-hmm. So it opens the blood vessels, more blood comes to the area, more oxygen comes to the area, more nutrients come to the area, and now this oxygen can attach like it's supposed to. The cell starts to breathe again, starts to make energy, so it has enough gas in the gas tank to do the job it's supposed to do on a daily basis, and everything starts to normalize. So the miraculous healing that occurs from light therapy, people make claims to light doing this, that, and the other thing. Mm-hmm. It's not doing those things. It's removing the roadblocks so the cells can do what they're simply programmed to do.
So what you're supposed to do. So your body's going to react how it's actually supposed to react.
It's programmed.
Without that inhibitor.
It's just an amazing technology that if you understand the math, you can point it anywhere. You add good building blocks, which is nutrition. That's why I love IV therapy, because we can put those very quickly back into the body because we're so bad at how we eat in this country.
Yeah.
And so you remove the roadblocks, add the building blocks, and healing can be extremely profound. When you're in a full body light bed, every outside cell and up to about 3 centimeters in the body is being saturated by quality light and reducing inflammation and oxidative stress. And then again, they can go on and start healing things. So it's systemic. And they've proven that if they put diodes on the head and they've proven, or even a pulse oximeter on the finger, your oxygen levels go up dramatically to 100% within 30 seconds of being in the bed, even if you're breathing room air, because of the way light works. And then they've actually shown what's called an increase in oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin, which shows that the brain is having better respiration, better cellular metabolism within 30 seconds of turning on these light beds. And that was the first bed that was put out, and it's not near the parameters of the newer beds. And our bed is the rock star, to be honest with you. You have two delivery systems. One is a systemic or full body system, which is your health. This is where your health comes from. Combating inflammation is the primary mechanism. And how do you do that if you've gotten 30 years of bad choices? You've got a lot of breakdown. So again, cells can repair, and you just give them the environment they need. And again, the building blocks. So take the roadblocks away. So it's about consistency. You're not going to exercise once and have the body you want.
Exactly.
Or even once a week for 6 months. No, unless you have an incredible rest of your life, diet and all that, and rest and all that. But you have to be consistent with your choices. So light can be an amazing intervention for that.
Is the mainstream medical community looking at this and saying, like, holy shit, what is going on here?
Depending on the doctors, which is really neat, because more and more doctors are outside the box thinkers now. They're not, we all know that big pharma is a big piece of education for our health professionals. And if it's keeping people healthy, they're not terribly interested. So,
did you say that out loud?
Yes, I did. But health professionals get it, and they know it, and they're locked into what what they do by what's called gold standard medicine. If you don't practice gold standard medicine, you can lose your license. So they have we have to offer you this, but if you do this too, is what they're saying now. If you do these health interventions, you can help accentuate your benefits. So more and more health professionals are on that. And if it can do no harm, and it has all these studies that prove benefit, I've literally listened to doctors dialogue back and forth, and I'm so excited, because 15 years ago I thought this would be everywhere in 5 years. And now I'm thinking maybe now in 5 years we're actually going to be everywhere, because the more and more exposure we're starting to move mainstream.
Thank you for everything that you're doing with this light therapy. I think it's going to be a lot of what New Age medicine is going to be. It's going to be a staple at the Aspire Rejuvenation clinics that we're going to expand to. I want to put these therapies in every one of the clinics.
That's wonderful.
That's what I want to do, because that's what we're about. We're about increasing that health span. We're about increasing wellness. We're about making people realize that they can live a much healthier life and not just provide Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid that the health industry is unfortunately doing.